All right, guys, we are bringing you another interview today. This is with MonsterDface. You guys know this guy already. You've seen him all over the Fortnite stream. He's got his own stream. He does YouTube, great YouTube videos. He's all over the place. So yeah, why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, Monster, and give us some of your social plugs so everybody knows where to follow you.
Yeah, first off, I want to say thank you guys for having me this week. I'm always excited to come on and just kind of talk shop, talk Fortnite, and talk life in general. But before we jump into things, if you guys want to kind of research up and maybe follow me on some of my medias, it's at MonsterDface across all media platforms from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever floats your boat. But preferably seek out my content on YouTube because it's up 24/7.
Awesome. And then you have a creator code too, right, Monster? So, if anybody wants to support you, what's your creator code? It's just MonsterDface?
Oh, I mean, yeah. If you guys want to throw me in for a creator code, absolutely. Same thing.
Awesome. All right, so I just kind of want to get to know you first for anybody who doesn't know Monster for some reason or whatever. How long have you been a gamer, and what games were you into before you got into Fortnite, and what got you into Fortnite? I'm going to throw those all into one kind of little thing and just let you go there.
Yeah, so like as far as gaming and stuff goes, I date way back. My earliest kind of memories and experiences definitely date as far back as being a kid in my aunt's house, and she had this super old like Atari, and we play like the Mario and all that kind of stuff, really old stuff. Nintendo 64, Banjo Kazooie. So I grew up around games and video games. Period. And one of my favorites, or the one that kind of broke me into the online / multiplayer space, which led me closer to games like Fortnite and these other kind of shooters, I would say would be definitely the Call of Duty genre. But it wasn't until Call of Duty's multiplayer got me hooked into that competitive atmosphere that I led into Battlefield. And then because of Battlefield, I got into PC gaming because I wanted to take that next step in just experiencing what Battlefield on PC servers were like, which at the time they were just like 2 times more than what the console could do. That's kind of how I got into PC gaming and then that stuff in general. Fortnite is just a whole nother story. I feel like Fortnite was really a blessing in disguise for me because not only was I hooked, but it was the next avenue and segue for me as a content creator to kind of jump into the next game to focus on.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a pretty similar background. I was playing games ever since I was a little kid, and same thing. It was what really got me into competitive was definitely Call of Duty and Halo when I was a kid, and then I never actually got into competing myself in the scene, but that's when I got into like following the competitive scene and watching competitive gameplay.
So for me, like it wasn't even like watching or following the competitive play. I just got my first taste of like that multiplayer PvP atmosphere. So I never, up until that point, I had not experienced anything like, oh my gosh, I'm playing against real people. Like, whoa, right? And that's what like Modern Warfare or basically Call of Duty Modern Warfare brought to me. And it was from then on I realized, dude, there was something like, it just sunk its teeth into me. And then at that point, I really wanted to get into the multiplayer genres, and I never looked back.
Oh yeah, I hear you there. I mean, it's totally different when you're playing against other, you're playing against other human players. It's just a total different experience from what is going on when you are playing a game against the computer. So I totally get that. And so now, like you said, Fortnite, has been a blessing for you in content creation. It has been for me as well. So a couple of questions here I'm going to roll into. One is, how long have you been streaming and making content in general? And then, is content creation the only job that you have, or do you have jobs outside of that?
Yeah, so like that's definitely a 2-part question. I'll kick it off by just talking about how long I've been in this space. So just to give you guys a little bit of context as far as how long have I been quote unquote successful in this space, I've been a full-time Twitch streamer, partnered on the platform now for 5 years. My 5-year anniversary actually just passed. So I am like an OG, aka like a grandpa in Twitch years, technically, when you kind of look back and you kind of see how long my journey and how long I've been on the platform. So I've gone through a number of games. Mainly, I would say what kind of took off my career was breaking off into the mobile space. And I focused on mobile games for about 3 years of my time making videos and stuff like that. And honestly, man, if you look back at my old stuff, dude, I had no idea what was going on. Just the gaming space and Twitch in general was just in a whole different place. This is long before Amazon kind of stepped in and brought in all the quality of life features that we now have as content creators. A lot of people take this stuff for granted, but yeah, man, I go back to the struggle days before like having a donation button was a normal thing. It took me a whole year before I was like, oh, I can accept donations. Like I literally did this because it was fun to do. With that being said, is content creation my only job? I like to answer this one with like, no, it's just one of the many jobs. For that being like, yes, I make videos, but I not only make videos, like I edit my videos, I manage on my own social media. I shoutcast professionally. I obviously run my own podcast with Too Loud. So amongst content creation, yes, it's one big hub, but like within this, dude, there are so many different roles, so many suits that I have to put on at different times throughout the day to keep all of my medias and all of this kind of going and keep it into fruition. So it's a very I wouldn't say easy, I wouldn't say difficult. It's just more like passion driven because I don't have to learn how to edit my own vids and stuff. I can always outsource, but I really love taking it all on myself and learning, I guess, to be the jack of all trades for my own content.
Yeah, that's awesome. In the time that I have been following you, that is something I really respect about you because I know that you do all your own stuff, you do all your editing, and I trust me, I know how hard of work that can be because just me being a small time guy, and same thing. I just got into this for the fun of it. I mean, I had no idea that when I started a podcast, I was going to get such a following. So it's just like, oh, whoa, this is amazing. And then I've been trying to throw myself in there, like into like, okay, doing the other content, like you said, like the videos and editing the videos. So I know how hard and time consuming that stuff can be. So that's awesome that you do all that because that really is like it's a full-time job to be doing that stuff. So you mentioned here that you've been partnered for 5 years on Twitch. Congratulations on that. That's pretty awesome. But
Thank you.
And you've done a ton of games. So what is it like transitioning between new games, and how hard is that to do? Because I know, I get a lot of my fan base. Like they see me and they know that like I'm not a big name guy, so they get inspired and they want to make content. And then I tell them that, yeah, well, you can do that, but you got to have a plan too. I mean, I expect Fortnite to be around for a long time, but if you really want to be successful, you got to know like how to transition between games and what that looks like and how hard that can be. I mean, it's not just because especially I see sometimes some of my younger fan base, they'll try trashing on the game. It's like, well, if you're trashing the own thing that you're doing, like how do you expect people to follow you and expect you, like follow you to the next thing you're doing if you're telling them what you're doing isn't that good?
Yeah, no, I can totally jump on that and relate to that topic. I mean, when I was a young or in my early stages of content creation, dude, I was naive as well. Like when I didn't like something, I was very vocal, I was very verbal in I guess you can say like a rude way, right? No one's ever gonna get their point across like that. But throughout the years, I learned like, oh, okay, why doesn't Supercell want to invite me to these events? When I look back and just kind of saw the content I was making, I was like, yeah, I probably wouldn't invite this kid either. Like, he's just bashing on the game. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he has a following, but so what? Like, that's not the kind of ambassador that I would even want to represent me, right? So with that, I kind of had an open talk with them, and they flat out told me. So I actually have to give credits to Supercell, who makes the game Clash of Clans or Clash Royale. You guys might be familiar with it. It's a mobile game. But basically, through that conversation, it kind of was an eye opener to me. So I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So because of that, I kind of cleaned up my content. I said, you know what? Let's make this more of a constructive thing. Yes, I can make my own content, but when it comes out to how I present myself on media, I'll clean it up a little bit. And we made big steps in the community. And then suddenly I started seeing the support from them because they saw that, okay, he's trying, he wants to be a role model in this space. And suddenly I started gaining, more of a liking with them. So when it comes down to breaking into the space and just transitioning games in general, first of all, you never want to bite the hand that feeds you. That's a big no-no. And more importantly, to find success, it's all about preparation and a whole lot of luck. So It takes a lot of preparation and it takes a lot of luck. And by preparation, I mean, dude, if you want to grow on YouTube, if you want to grow on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it be, each and every kind of social media platform has its own niche culture. The same formula that works on YouTube will not work for Twitter, and it definitely will not work for Twitch. There's just different ways to grow yourself and your brand on different platforms, and it comes down to doing your homework. That's what I mean by preparation, because I genuinely believe that there's a viewer out there for everyone. Someone might like my vibe, someone might love your vibe, but then they just completely don't get on with this person for whatever reason. And that's okay, because you can't please everyone. So find yourself and prepare, do your homework, and then that luck factor comes in, so that when you get those moments and those opportunities kind of break away and get eyes on you, you gain fans. Because early in my career, I remember my biggest raid. I got raided by someone called Deluxe4. He ran a huge YouTube channel back then. He was probably the #1 content creator. He sent 10,000 viewers to my Twitch channel, and I was not prepared, dude. Looking back now, you send 10,000 at me, I'm definitely walking away with some new fans, because I know what I am and what I stand for as a content creator. And that's why when people say, oh, dude, I'm so good at this game, I want viewers. In my mind, I say, no, you don't want viewers, not yet. You better hope that when that moment comes, you're ready for it. So just be prepared, guys, because it's about being in it for the marathon. This is not going to come overnight. And the more you do your homework and just take your time with it, you get comfortable, you get in your own space, you will find success as it comes through that door.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with all that. I mean, definitely consistency is something that I have found is huge in this space. Like some of my followers know that this isn't the first podcast I've ever done. In the past, I've done 2 other ones, and at the time I did the other 2, I didn't have as much time to do it, and then I had to get a second job. So then I just started, it was real inconsistent, and the followers like fell off fast. So consistency was something I found to be key. But definitely I like what you said in there about being, like, you got to really find out who you are, so that when you are making your content, you're true to yourself, and you're passionate, because people will read right through that if you're not being honest about the content you're making, if you don't actually like what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so going off that, the other thing I know about you is that you're really knowledgeable about competitive Fortnite. Obviously, you make great YouTube videos on competitive Fortnite and giving people tips on how to get better in that, and doing like some great, tutorials, or you'll go through and do like reviews of what the pro players are doing. Like, and you kind of mentioned earlier that you really got into competitive gaming in the past, but were you ever involved in other esports before? Like, did you compete at all?
No, so like Fortnite is actually my first ever quote unquote esport that I broke into, let alone really took on the whole role of like, hey, I'm going to become one of the pillars of like just education and communication for the game. I kind of credit that to just me being on the scene early enough, and then realizing, hey, I'm kind of good at this. I'm definitely excelling, and that's because I was just so involved and innovative in how how complex Fortnite is. You guys see how far the game has pretty much has been taken when it comes down to this building and stuff like that. It really just fascinated me. So because that passion, that drive, the more I started to learn, the more I started to give back and teach other people. And it really dates back to all of the games that I've played in the past period. I've always had that kind of, I guess, mentor slash, want to kind of, I guess, cater my content to be educational, to teach people. I've always done that kind of stuff. It just so happened Fortnite was the first game that I did it, I guess, on PC. And it kind of just cracked open the doors for what is the PC gaming community, which is 10x larger than my little mobile niche communities that I was focusing on in the past. So this is my first competitive game, and it's the first one that I've broken into the esports. But man, I've learned so many. I feel like I'm able to take away so many lessons just from being in this scene. Being surrounded by organizations and getting approached on that kind of level, because I never set out or sought to join an org. Even back when I was on these other games, like, my numbers were huge. I could have been a content creator for probably any org at those times, but it was just never on my radar.
Okay, gotcha. So that's something I definitely want to talk to you about too. Then, this is like, so what do you think about the current state of competitive Fortnite and all the stuff that we got going on in orgs right now? I mean, we had the Tfue thing, we had, like Courage is over at 100 Thieves now. Nick Merckx just joined Phase today. Like, it's what's going on in the competitive scene? What do you think of the whole state of the competitive Fortnite?
Well, the state of competitive Fortnite as a whole, I think it's still being developed. Like, and by that I just mean like Epic Games take on it, the community's take on it. It's been a big feud, obviously, between like the players wanting things to be kind of how other games run their stuff, and then Epic being like, no, we're gonna reshape and re-innovate this entire scene, even down to the way they support their creators, right? Like the fact that they even give people passive revenue through supported creator code, unheard of, period, to have such an open source, open sandbox for people to just kind of jump into the scene. So the way Epic has done it, I really commend them. I think they've done way more good than they have, I guess, bad, if you want to call it that, in the competitive scene. So that's my take on just competitive as a whole. I think there's always going to be that vocal minority, and I call them the minority because you guys saw what happened with the drum gun. The drum gun was voted back. Everyone on Twitter was riffing about it. Exactly. That just shows you how small the the voices for the competitive scene. We're that small. So I think there's always going to be some head clashing. And my take on orgs. So like, I think orgs are how do I say it? A great resource for content creators and pros to help amplify their brand and really continue to grow. But I also genuinely believe that not every person needs an org to make it on the scene or be successful. Hopefully, when people look at me and see my content and my journey, I'm like testament to that. Like, look, you can find success in this space, and you don't need an org, and or you don't need those resources that, of course, they can provide. It's a give and a take. Ultimately, I think if you just work hard and you get your name out there and you're genuine about your content, you do it right, you can get your name out there and you continue to grow in this space. You don't need to depend on an org, or you don't necessarily need one. But hey, if it's your dream to go out there and try and join TSM, I'm also not going to take that from you, because with that comes a lot of benefits too. So it is a give and take. And I think now more than ever, people are starting to realize that, especially with the controversy on the scene. Because that's about the best way I can put it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, why do you think some of these bigger names, like we saw Nick Merckx join Face today? Why do you think they would join an org since they've already got a big name? What's the benefit for somebody like that to be like rejoining another org?
So I was there for Nick Merckx's reveal today, and I think he said something very interesting. He wanted to fly solo initially, but you also don't want to shoot down those conversations, right? There's nothing wrong with exploring those conversations, because if someone's going to come at you with let's just say the right number, hey man, money talks, and why not, make a little bit more icing on the cake, right? But another thing, orgs again can just amplify your brand more so than anything else, because they have a following, right? They create buzz, they create attention, they create just hype. They can help you create content that is larger than yourself, and they can also reach sponsors that are just larger than yourself, that can solidify your brand as a whole. To touch upon Nick Merckx, he said what appealed to him most was that FaZe wasn't trying to take over Nick Merckx and make him FaZe Nick Merckx. No, they were like, hey, we as FaZe want to partner with you, Nick Merckx, because you're huge. The M fam is huge. Your community is awesome. Let's work together. Let's partner up. So they're looking at more as, let's work side by side to grow you and bring in your community to FaZe, but also turn FaZe's community into yours and help amplify both of us. So it's a win-win in that situation. When you have someone as big as Nick Merckx, who literally has a cult following for his own brand, and then you have a cult following that's FaZe, you bring them together, that's a great combination, right? It's not like someone who is just big in numbers but doesn't necessarily have a strong positive brand behind it. I think for Nick Merckx, any team would have loved to have him, and anyone that was willing to take care of him and make sure that he felt comfortable, they were going to win him over. And, he's an easygoing guy, and you can see with this easy transition right here, I really just think that they hit every need for him on the head and gave him that sense of security.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I didn't see the beginning of his stream or anything. I caught the end of his stream where he talked about, joining the team and that he was happy to be there. I didn't see the part where, that makes a lot of sense to me then, where he's gonna be still kind of like Nick Merckx, and like, if they're not trying to make him phase Nick
Right.
Merckx, because I'm the same kind of way. Like I'm kind of like you. I'd rather be solo. I'd rather be on my own, doing my own thing, and just trying to break in and be successful that way. Because I'm just the kind of guy I don't like other people's hands in on what I'm trying to do, kind of thing.
No, I get that.
Yeah, I like being independent, but that makes sense, and if that's what he's going for. But another thing I want to talk about is obviously you've been doing a great job of shoutcasting for the Fortnite World Cup online open qualifiers. Seriously, you've been doing amazing. I love it. I love the whole shoutcasting team over there is doing a great job. So I just kind of ask you, what is that experience like?
Oh man, it's definitely surreal when you just kind of I come from very, I guess, humble beginnings, right? Like the way I was brought up, we didn't have much and stuff like that. So now just kind of being in this position that I am, just personally on a personal level, when I'm up on that stage and I look to my left and right, sometimes I really just think like, dude, I don't even know how I got here, right? So it is definitely like a crazy experience. It's super humbling, and to be able to just be one of the voices for like what is quite arguably the biggest game in the world right now, the hottest game in the world, it might be for a couple years to come, maybe some more big events on the horizon and stuff like that. To be a part of that team and to have that experience, there are no words that can kind of explain like how I got there necessarily. It's just and what it feels like. It is just that crazy. Like it's just like wow. So I try and take every opportunity that I'm up there as a learning experience, and just keep, I guess, trying to solidify myself in this space, and find my own voice as a caster, because I've never done casting before. So when I'm working alongside someone like Golden Boy and Courage, who's been in this literally for years, they're veteran casters, and people are comparing my tone, my energy, my style to greats like them, that is truly a very rewarding feeling for me personally, because I'm just like, wow, I'm learning so much in a short period of time. And honestly, I got to give a lot of credit to people like Golden Boy, who kind of helped mentor me on that stage too, because, I learn a lot just from working those guys every day.
Awesome, that's amazing. That's cool to hear that you come from humble beginnings as well. I know what you mean about growing up with not a lot. It was always a joke in my house, is like, are we poor? And my mom would say, no, we're in debt, So like, we're not poor, we're in debt. So I know what you mean when it comes to humble beginnings and working your way up.
I'm from the Bronx, New York. For any of you guys out there that know that, or you guys from the Bronx, shout out to anyone from Soundview or Hunts Point.
Awesome. So I'm obviously you're on the shoutcast team, but I got to think that's got to bring some extra pressure on you as a content creator, right?
I mean, early on, so like my first ever summer skirmish, dude, I was nervous because like right before they invited me, they had Nick Merckx up, they had Nick A30, they had Hamlins, they had Myth. So like literally they had these juggernauts in the Fortnite space, and then there's just me grinding, just broke 100,000 subs, right? Like literally finding my voice in the community, working my butt off. And they just invite me, and it blew me away, but it swept me off my feet. So I'm like, hold up. You just had these guys up here. Like, dang, like I got a long way to go to kind of close that gap as far as, their brand, their channel size, their influence at that point in time. But they gave me an opportunity, and I went in there with my head held high, and I just kind of did my own thing, right? I didn't let anyone else's kind of style influence me. I wanted to bring forth a competitive atmosphere, a fun take on the game, and just kind of spit my knowledge. And that paid out to the benefit, because then I got invited again and again and again. And over the course of time, I guess, and experience, I've now gotten to get really comfortable with it. I guess the only hit or the blowback is that being a full-time YouTuber and Twitcher, and dude, traveling can be very taxing. It's also extremely hard to make content while I'm on the road. So if anything, time is much more constrained now. So the days that I am home, I'm just working overtime, if that makes sense.
Oh no, yeah, that totally makes sense. I see how that could be, extra hard. All that travel time too, like that's got to be tough. But the other thing I'm curious about is like just your content creation. Like, do you get extra pressure from fans as well? Because like I see a lot of the big name people when they say stuff, like the fans will come at them for like, they're saying like, oh, you're saying positive things about the game because you make big stuff, and then
Okay.
for like you're actually shoutcasting for Fortnite. So like you'll see people say something nice about Fortnite, and then people go hashtag ad on there. It's like, dude, no, they're probably actually just happy about the game. Like, so do you get extra like pressure from fans at all?
Oh yeah, no, I get a lot of flack, especially because one, I've never been up. So there are people in the world, right? There are people that are just actually downers, where they can't see the positive in some. They can only see the worst case scenario, and that's okay. But I've always been an optimistic type of person where I don't look at what I don't have. I look at what I do have, and I work with that. Period. And that's just me. So even with the game, let's just say hypothetically, or we'll just pull back the situation. You take away a weapon from the game, you take away the pump. Yeah, you can moan about it, you can cry about it, but dude, like realistically, it's not going to change anything. Like let's make the best of it, right? Let's learn how to use this new weapon. Let's get good with that, and then let's continue to enjoy this game if we can. But when it comes down to my media presence, yes, people are always giving me stuff. There are a lot of people that back me and they love my philosophy and my take on life, but there are people that genuinely believe like, no, you're paid by Epic. This is why you do these things. It's not even like that. Like I can really care less. I've always been very brutally honest. And when I don't like something, I'll say it, but I'll say it with respect. And I think that's where people tend to kind of see the line needs to be drawn there. But I think they're just naive and don't quite understand the process of being a professional in this space, because a lot of people don't take or don't see a streamer as someone who's a professional or has a quote unquote job, right? We just play video games for a living, when there's so much more that goes into building a brand. And that's the difference between someone who's a veteran caster like me, who's been through several games and transitions, and someone like who might just literally be finding their first taste of success here on Fortnite. And when this game finally does fizzle out and they can't make that transition, they'll know why at that point, because they didn't learn the skills of a businessman, let's just say, to kind of hone in on their craft and learn this game that is making content creation and being in this space.
Oh, I 100% agree with that, kids. If you're out there and you're, one of the kids have been telling me that you've been inspired by MonsterDface over here, take those last words as a good learning lesson there. But yeah, let's see here. Some other things I wanted to talk to you about is because the World Health Organization just came out and said that they're going to make gaming addiction like a real disorder. But for me, I've actually already recorded a couple of interviews with some people in my community here, just to kind of also show the positive things that come out of gaming, because I feel like in the mainstream media they always want to cover and talk about the negative side of gaming, but I think there's a lot of positive that comes out of gaming. But so how do you balance, obviously you're a content creator, but how do you balance your content creation and your family life, because I know you have a family too?
Yeah, you want to know the real secret? I wake up early. I just wake up earlier than them. Patch notes drop at 4 a.m. Perfect. I'll wake up 4 a.m. while they're sleeping, while they're getting that shut eye, and it doesn't interfere as much with our family time, because I'm sacrificing sleep so that I can get my grind and my hustle out the way, so that when the little one does get home from school and stuff like that, I could then be offline, and instead of being a camera presence, I could just like be editing things and still interact with her, help her with her homework, and even my lady, right? I'll just have that presence. I can walk by the kitchen, check on the house. She's if she's making some food or something like that, I'm able to interact and still be a presence in the household. But a lot of it just comes down to just literally optimizing my time and going to bed a little bit earlier. And even if I go to bed late, still waking up early, man, and just get that grind in. And that's why I'm a morning streamer. I've never been like these other gamers, right? They do like real gamer hours playing all night. No, dude, that's like children hour. Like you can do that. Right. This is real gamer hour. Like I'm up early, butt crack in the morning, trying to knock out what I got to do so I could be a family man, right? That's gaming hours. So I guess it just comes down to, no excuses. Just get up and chase it, man.
I hear you. That's actually the same exact thing I do almost. I either wake up extra early so I can make my content, or like my thing is my kids, I make them get ready and they at least have to be in bed. They don't have to be sleeping, but they got to be in bed by 8 o'clock.
Hmm.
So like then I might stay up late to make my content as well. So most of the time I
Yeah.
like, my episodes are short because I do them daily, so I'll stay up later than what my kids do and do it. But I throughout the day, like you said, I'm at home for my family, so it's like I'm
And
either up late or up really early so that I can so I can make it. And that's how I balance
and
the same way.
it's the same thing, right? Regardless of how you look at it, you're sacrificing that sleep time that you would normally, you probably love to just go ahead and lay down 9:30, but hey man, if you want to continue to make that content, you got to hustle out to 10:30, 11 o'clock, and then just kind of make the best from there. So I totally get it. I've been there, and like I said, I've just been working so hard that I've gotten to the point that I've been able to like kind of coin flip my schedule and run it the way I want to run it now. So I just put those hours into the real early hours in the morning.
All right, well that's awesome. Another thing that's awesome is that you make some amazing art. We know your MonsterDface because the deface is from you. Being into tagging and everything, but I've seen that you've been making some art on your stream a couple times lately. I've seen those. I saw that you got to put one of your pieces up on the Fortnite stream when they were doing the shoutcasting last weekend, right? So that's pretty awesome. Like, how long you've been doing that, and can people buy your art? Is there a way that people that can buy it for people like it? Because I've seen people in my Discord talk about how they really like the art you do.
Yeah, so like as far as availability for my art, it's gonna be so much more available when I move to Houston because I'm finally moving into a house, right? I've always lived in apartments. It's been very hard to kind of save my stencils because the type of artwork that I do is just very hard to conserve it or preserve it, I should say. Especially being I got 2 cats, guys. So imagine they go crazy. They see paper, they scratch it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so it's very hard to preserve the artwork. But now that I'm moving soon, I'll be able to kind of save my stuff and work on a larger scale and take on more commission. So as of right now, when I do a piece, they're very limited. They're custom, and you can really only get it when I kind of post it up. If you want to snatch the 3 or 2 that I end up making, and dude, they sell so fast because I don't know, dude. I appreciate you guys loving the art. People just pick it up.
Oh, I bet.
So when did I start art? I was young, man. My cousin left a portfolio of like Dragon Ball Z sketches, and I started tracing his artwork back then. And ever since, it was just like history, dude. I just kept learning how to draw, and then I got into graffiti. And those were like some troublesome teen years that my mom hated, but shaped me into the man I am today. And that's how I got my skill with the paint. And don't regret a single day, man. Because yeah, all those experiences really shaped me up to be the person that I am today.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Kind of rounding out the podcast now. So normally, in my episodes, I'll do like a tip of the day. So is there any tips that you would have out there for our listeners that would, whether it's a gameplay tip or if it's pursuing a career in content creation? But you kind of talked about that some already. But is there any one last little tip that you want to give to people?
Yeah, I guess I'll touch up on the helping you guys just break into content creation. Don't let anyone affect your vision. This is why I love editing my own stuff, because I bring it to life, man. If you think that you don't know a program, think about this. It literally only takes a couple of hours of studying to master, or not master, but become an amateur in anything. If you want to learn how to use Adobe, literally, you can become an amateur, and that will be your starting stone. Just use those tutorials. There's so many guides out there on YouTube. Like, you can do and learn anything, guys. And that has been my whole thing. When I want to learn something, I just search it up, man. I take on the task. And I think there is a saying. I think the saying is like, you can become an amateur in anything as long as you dedicate 6 hours minimal. That's like the threshold requirement. So there's truth to it. I've learned so many programs. I've picked up so many skills just by kind of going out there and not making any excuses, man. Just do it. Like, quite literally, it's how you get things done. Because there are no shortcuts in life. And if you don't want to outsource, if you don't think you have, the funds to pay someone to make that thumbnail, dude, go learn how to make a thumbnail. It's not that hard. There's free programs everywhere, and get into the space, man. There's space for everybody.
That's another thing I can 100% agree with. Especially nowadays, it's so easy to get on YouTube or get on Google or go somewhere to find tutorials on how to do things. And so many of these programs are, accessible now, so much cheaper than before. 15 years ago, I went to the Art Institute of Seattle. I went to school to be an audio engineer, and I've got tons of debt from that. But nowadays, like with so much stuff that you can just find online how to do these things, and like with these programs getting cheaper and cheaper all the time, like yeah, it's definitely something that's that's reachable.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you, Monster, for coming on here again to the show. You know what? Let you give a chance to plug your social medias one last time. That way, everybody is reminded of what those are. That way, they can go give you a follow and support you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, guys, thank you guys for having me. Once again, you can find me at Monster, capital DFACE, on all media. So you guys want to see my art, check out Instagram. You can browse through that. And yeah, dudes, connect, man. I love talking, especially anything gaming related, anything kind of this business is that we live in, this that we work in. I love talking this kind of stuff because when I was kind of coming up, I didn't have anyone to teach me any of this. And this is why I give back so much information through my own journey. So hopefully you guys feel inspired and y'all enjoyed the episode this week. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome, man. I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna love hearing this. Yeah, if you don't mind signing us out as well, I always say this thing at the end of my podcast. It's just a saying that we have in our community: say, don't get lost in the storm." And it just, obviously it relates to Fortnite, where it's, we don't want you to get lost in the storm because you're gonna die out there in the storm. But it's also, it relates to life too, like because there's so much stuff out there in life that you can get lost in. But we got to remind everyone not to get lost in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Boys, don't get lost in the storm.